And we are back. After a long and frustrating campaign last season, we decided to take a little bit of a break going into the summer and try recalibrate and decide where we want to take this channel. Now we are back and we are going to be that reliable source yet again for all the sort of match breakdowns that you can't find anywhere else. Now, unfortunately, we are going to have to start our comeback talking about Liverpool's defeat against AS Monaco yesterday. But of course, there is always some interesting things that you do learn with a new manager in these pre-season friendlies, and it's not always about the result. So let's break that down, guys. But first, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more. So as mentioned, our game against AS Monaco yesterday ended in a defeat. Let's go through some of the interesting things we noticed, both on a collective and an individual level. You know, pretty similar to the post-game videos we usually do, perhaps a little lighter this time though, because we want to wait until all the friendly games are over and done with before giving you a complete summary of our pre-season preparation. That way we can get a much clearer picture of how our new manager, Iraola, his ideas, and how he is planning to set this team up going into the new season. But for now, let's take a closer look at what happened in our first game at Anfield this summer. Let's get straight into the point here, because there is simply no better way to start today's video than with the brilliant first goal we scored in the game. So let's break it down. The sequence starts with us settled in possession, and as you can see here, we have one fullback staying deep while the other pushes high. This is something we believe we will see quite often with Iraola this season. Gravenberch and Szoboszlai form the double pivot, while Wirtz drops from the number 10 position to overload certain areas. So far, almost nothing new here. What is interesting, however, is how quickly we change the tempo. The passes from Neduuke to Tsimikas and then to Gravenberch are sharp and straight into the strong foot of each receiver. From there, Gravenberch disguises his intentions and starts driving forward with the ball, only to suddenly stop and turn back. That little fake drive is enough to create a reaction from Monaco's block and, more importantly, allows Wirtz to receive with all that space in front of him as the opposition starts shifting towards the other side. Now, because Tsimikas is already positioned deep, Monaco's winger has pushed higher up the pitch, leaving Gakpo in this 1v1 situation. A simple pass from Wirtz is enough to find him in a dangerous position. From there, Gakpo does what we have seen him do so many times, cutting inside onto his strongest foot, and despite Szoboszlai being free on the edge of the box, he decides to play the ball back to Gravenberch, who has arrived into the central area. This is where we see another change of tempo. Both Gravenberch and Szoboszlai play off their first touch, keeping the move alive and allowing us to attack the space immediately. That eventually sets up Isak in a great position to finish the move and open the scoring. These shifts in tempo are something we'd probably be seeing a lot under Iraola. It's also something we mentioned in our video about the new gaffer. These changes of speed can be really useful when it comes to breaking teams down, whether we're still in the early stages of our build-up or already higher up the pitch. The idea is simple. We don't always have to play at the same speed. Sometimes moving the ball quickly can pull the opposition apart, while at other times slowing things down can be what creates the opening for that sudden burst of acceleration. If we can execute these changes consistently, we should be able to create enough chances for the likes of Isak and Ekitike to attack. But that's not the only chance creation method we're going to see under the Spaniards' management. We know how aggressive Iraola wants his fullbacks to be, but it's not about pushing them high. He also wants them to constantly provide width and threaten the opposition with overlapping and underlapping runs. This is something we're likely going to see consistently under him, and interestingly enough, we saw it more than once in this game. This is what is often referred to as the double width. You have the winger already positioned wide and high, while the fullback pushes up almost onto the same line. This creates a really difficult situation for the opposition because they now have two players occupying the same wide area, forcing them to make a decision and often creating 2v2 situations. And that's exactly what happens here. Wirtz drives forward with a ball while Kumas tucks inside to drag the marker with him, and in doing so creates the space for Frimpong to overlap onto the outside. Once the 2v2 is created, Frimpong accelerates into the box and Wirtz is able to find him with a pass between the defenders. From there, Kumas gets himself into a good position for the finish, but unfortunately his shot is blocked. Still, the sequence gives us a good example of how Iraola can use the width provided by both the winger and the fullback to create these situations. Kumas, by the way, the kid looks miles better than he did before. It really looks like the loan spell last season did him a lot of good. He looks more confident and more involved, and that pre-assist for our second goal was another great example of what he can offer with his delivery. You can see here how we look to generate another 2v2 situation out wide. As Frimpong receives the ball, Kumas makes a great run in behind, and what I really liked was how he curved his trajectory to make sure he remained onside while still attacking the space behind the defense. From there, he puts in a really good cross towards the second post, finding Gakpo in a position where he can attack the ball and play the header back across goal. Wirtz is then perfectly placed to arrive and put it into the net. Once again, it's a simple example of how creating these 2v2 situations out wide can eventually open up the space inside the box. Now, we've seen some more familiar stuff already, like Wirtz dropping and the wide 2v2s, but there was something here that immediately made our hearts ache when we saw it. Remember those long diagonal balls from Van Dijk straight into Salah on the right hand side? That was a tool we used not only to threaten the space in behind, but also as a pressure relief. Our Egyptian king was so good at receiving those balls, holding off his marker and helping us progress up the pitch when the opposition had pinned us back. Well, in this game, we saw Van Dijk play almost the exact same ball, only this time it was into Frimpong. The Dutchman was able to take his first man on and get away from the initial pressure, although he unfortunately lost the ball shortly after. But this is still an interesting detail. It tells us that Iraola is already aware of the passing range Van Dijk has in his locker, and with Salah now gone, he knows he can use Frimpong as that wide outlet. His incredible acceleration gives him the ability to attack those balls and immediately turn a defensive situation into an attacking one. Of course, Frimpong is not Salah, and we're not expecting him to replace what Salah gave us in these situations. But if this is going to become another way for us to escape pressure and get up the pitch, then maybe we don't have to say goodbye to that Van Dijk diagonal just yet. Now, that first half was a bit chaotic in a sense, but both teams attacking each other, and even with us 2 goals up, you couldn't really say that we were fully in control of the match. It was quite open at times, and Monaco was still able to find ways of getting forward. In the second half, the lack of depth became a bit worrying. Fatigue started to become more obvious in some players, and the intensity levels dropped quite heavily, especially when it came to our pressing. Still, there was one massive positive to take from the game, or rather, someone who has been incredible throughout our friendly so far. It's ynwa. Trey first really caught our eye during the friendlies before last season. If you remember that Real Betis game last summer, he came on for Jones and basically took the game by the scruff of the neck as he started conducting play from midfield. This summer, he has been doing the same thing in almost every single game, and this one was no different. He brought a sense of calmness to our play and acted as a pressure relief option in the early stages of our build-up. He was constantly looking to make himself available and give his teammates an option whenever they were under pressure. The following moment is a great example of how clever and hardworking he is, especially without the ball. Here you can see him working to provide a passing option for his teammate. He could have chosen an easy option and simply dropped into the back line to collect the ball. Instead, he makes 5 little movements behind his marker, constantly changing his position and confusing him. Then, at the right moment, he jumps into the space behind the opponent's line, giving his teammate a much more progressive passing option. It might look like a small detail, but these little movements are exactly what makes him so effective. He's not just waiting for the ball to come to him, he is actively working to create the conditions that allow him to receive it in a better position. This game gave us plenty of interesting things to look at, from the changes in tempo to those wide 2v2 situations, and of course some really encouraging individual performances. There were definitely some concerns as well, especially with the drop in intensity and the lack of depth becoming more obvious as the game went on, but these remain friendlies. The intentions are what matters, and so far things look quite promising. For now, there are definitely some exciting signs, and players like ynwa are giving us plenty to look forward to. But that's it from us today. So do let us know your thoughts on that game and pre-season in general, and of course we'll be back to give more match breakdowns as pre-season continues, and of course the Premier League campaign starts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit like, hit subscribe, and we'll see you all next time. Take care.